Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Astral interview. And today with me, I have Tyson Bannigan. And I met Tyson at Astral Connections many years ago. And he was sharing his technology with us, his water technology with us at that time. And since then, I just very recently connected with Tyson to learn of some tragedies in his life that we had mutual connection in regards to. I'm gonna let go right now and let Tyson take over, and just let Tyson tell us a little bit about himself. Tell us a little bit about his. Start from the beginning. Tell us about your history. Tell us where you grew up. Tell us about that that life of yours, the very early life of yours, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short and brief. I've been very lucky in that I've had many lifetimes in one lifetime, but and maybe that's good in that I can move through a lot of karma and get this lifetime done once and for all. So I was born in 1945. I became in as a full-blown empath, which means I could understand what people were thinking around me, and quickly learned that people didn't want to know what I thought because they weren't ready for that type of awareness. So
how old were you when you realized that you came in as a full empath?
Well, I think certainly in my teenage years, when I would say to my girlfriend, "Did you know da 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 da," right? And she would get blown away, and that would be that relationship. That would be a good example. Or I get up in the morning. I was one of the fifth boy in four boys that were next door. So I was just thrown in as the fifth one, even though I lived next door. So I grew up with these middle-class boys, and I'd come down in the morning and Mrs. Walji would say, "Well, how do you feel? How are you?" And I said, "Da, da, da, da." And quickly her eyes would glaze over. And I realized, no, she doesn't really care how I feel. She just wants me to say, "I'm fine, thank you very much." So I just, it just didn't, well, I just wanted to be picked up and taken home. Like, where was that UFO anyway? And why weren't they going to come and take me home? So the book that I'm in the midst of writing is The Empath Guide to Planet Earth. So hopefully other empaths, certainly the Rainbow Children and all the new kids that are coming through, will have an easier understanding of what it is to be here. And that it took many, many years, even going to university and failing in high school and failing first year university, and then learning from my best friend that they really don't care what you think. You just need to be the best parent on the planet and get the professor back exactly what he's told you. And when I did that, I became an honor student. So I learned how to fit in. I became a good parent. I learned
So you couldn't be yourself. You had to kind of recreate yourself to fit the situation you were in, rather than just be Tyson.
Exactly. And the addictive part of that is, I've gone on and I've taught university and I love to teach. Give me a blackboard and a piece of chalk and I'm really, really happy. I just stand up and deliver and I'm good at it and I love doing it. But I'm so addicted to the scientific or rational or the analytical or, information from books or all of that, it's only lately that I've realized that the addiction is about I've never done crack cocaine, but it's an addiction to fit into the status quo, to think that I need to think my way through something, that there's something to figure out, there's something to do, that I need a new shiny bright object to be able to get this done, when in actual fact, I just need to shut up, be still, be silent, go inward and receive guidance. So my message to all those that I work with, which are empaths and highly sensitive people, is stop trying to fit in. You're not here to fit in. You're here to change the world. And so if that makes sense to anybody that I'm talking to, I'm your coach. I'm your person to help you get out of your own way, take back your personal power, stand in your truth, understand what your divine gifts are, your awesome empathic gifts are, and then help you deliver them to the world as a business that makes you money and puts bread on and butter on the table. So that's what I'm about. I'm hoping that I can help shortcut the journey that I was on for those that are to follow me, so that it's much easier and quicker for them to come into their own and be able to make this a better planet to live on.
So most people, when you say empath, I mean, our community may know what empath is, but most people are experiencing the life of an empath and not even know that they're experiencing a life of an empath.
Yeah, absolutely. Another term is highly sensitive people. So, if you have that aha, that's, your grandma's going to phone you, or that you have a death about to happen in the family, or aha. And by the way, the latest scientific evidence is that we will know before, our heart will know what's about to happen even before it happens. And they proved it scientifically with a computer and a program that just throws up pictures randomly. Some are shocking and some are lovingly, and your heart will react positively or negatively before you even see the picture. So we're already intuitive, we're already empathic. Right. It's just that our culture does not encourage us to do that. They want us to fit a mold that comes from the way that we've been culturally raised, from our culture, from our tradition, from our religion, from our beliefs, from the global agenda and all the rest of it. We are locked into a matrix that we are not even aware of. And therefore, the concept of liberation is scary for people, because when they get freed from the matrix, they don't know who the heck they are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's so true. And they don't even know when they're freed from the matrix, really. They're just feeling bombarded with things coming at them that they didn't recognize, that, everyone else isn't going through the same thing. Like, it's just me. Because everyone around them is in a different world than they are.
And that's why I really am starting to coach in a group. I've just finished a whole number of 15-minute laser focused coaching with some of Corey Poirier's group. He just did he helps people do public speaking and become best-selling authors. And I was one of his coaches in a 3-day event. And I quickly learned in 15 minutes, because of my background, I can really help people make a quantum jump. Like, what is their topic? What is their focus? What is their niche? Whatever, because I've just been around the block. And that encouraged me to realize that, because of my experience in working with groups, particularly 12 around 1, which is a magical number, right, like 12 disciples, 12 crystal skulls,
Absolutely.
that literally miracles or empathic downloads happen. So I was asking some of those that I did these 15-minute sessions with, do you have a network of like-minded people? Like, do you have somebody to communicate? And a lot of them don't. So right. I'm really excited about this new program, which will be like a mastermind or a group of 12 that will come together to put some rocket fuel in each other's business. And so that we will be able to talk the same language, encourage each other, inspire each other. And right. There'll be hot seats for people to be able to get feedback from the other 12 to help them move forward.
So that's one of the programs. You have many programs that you offer, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And since COVID, I've found that there's not a lot of discretionary funds that people have. So the programs that I teach are really not readily accessible, not because they're not good, but because people don't have that money. So I have a number of certification programs. So one of them is distant healing certification program, which is coming from John Living, which includes a 65-page manual and videos on how to do distant healing. Another certification program that's 8-month long, and the original was 12 months, which is dowsing and energy healings master certification course, which is looking at some of the master dowsers that are no longer with us and energy healers. So you end up with a toolbox of all sorts of techniques, and also discover that healers on the other dimensions, like on the other side, literally, are available to work with you. So it's very, very exciting program to be interdimensionally working with those that are on the other side. And then my real passion is earth wisdom geomancy, which is ley lines, energy lines, clearing houses, opening your heart, connecting to the sacred earth, working with elementals and with angels and with the landscape, and sanctifying the landscape that you live in, how to do ceremony, how to talk with the lords of light, how to commune with all the different dimensional awarenesses, including our ancestors or our future selves, about what it is that we're in the midst of, which is transformation as we move into the fifth dimension. So that's my real passion. So
Well,
I
you talked,
realized, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just
You're gonna-
realized that I needed to shift gears and got excited with those 15-minute sessions with the business people, that those people have money that because they have a business and they're generating income to be able to hire me to help them do the next step. But my goal is to bring that entrepreneurial skills to those that are healers and empaths, so that there is enough money so I can help them become certified in distant healing and working with the earth, because it's in removing the trauma from the earth then which we're going to make this new ascension or this fifth dimensional shift, right?
Right, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, is the 3D versus the 5D. Can you define for everyone right now the process that everyone's going through right now, and the mindset that they have right now, and the importance of that shift from the 3D to the 5D?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing, and I'm talking to myself right here, is what I talked about, the crack cocaine, the addiction of the solution another coach has it, or somebody outside of me, or that bright shiny object or whatever, or I need to know what's going on in the external world. I need to watch the news, or I can't believe in, because they're, what do you call it? The news isn't worthy anymore, right? That I have to go to alternative news to figure out. That all is going down a rabbit hole.
It is, and it's all like, they're all distractions.
Exactly.
To the goal. I agree.
The real work is going inwardly and coming to peace with our own inner war, to come to terms with being silent and not having any expectations about anything, but being all right with what shows up in our life, because at the soul level, we ask that to come in our lives so we'd learn. So really what we have is, how do I want to react to whatever that is that's showing up in my life? It's my reaction, how I deal with it, which has to do with my spiritual growth. All the rest of that is a distraction and gets me away from doing what I'm here to do, which is ascension of my own personality and helping others ascend, which is the planet. So back to your question, what's the difference between the 3D and the 5D? The 3D is being locked into the matrix, where we feel the solution is outside of ourselves. Somehow our government has to solve this problem, or it's a UN problem, or we have to stop the wars, or we have to bring about universal peace, or I need to go picket in the street, or I need to write my MP, or what. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying the real solution is an inside job, right? And that's what I want to help.
Let your inside guide you as to your actions that you take in your outside.
Exactly. And what is in front of you, if you're still, you always have the first aha of what it is that you're doing. And then you spend less time doing what you need to do, which is that 20-80 rule, right? Where we spend 20% of our time, if we're focused, to get 80% of the results. Where if I'm addicted to the third dimension, which I have been all my life,
we all have,
spending 80% of my time to get the 20% results.
Right. And then suddenly you realize, oh my God, this isn't where it's at. It's not in this dimension that you're fighting to survive in. It's not even about survival anymore.
That's right.
It's about love.
And so the irony of this is that working with an empath, they're overwhelmed by all of that outside of themselves. They feel everything. They feel that they're responsible for their trauma in their family. They're responsible for, everything. And even they can't
not even just themselves, but their family, their community, their humanity.
Right. So the third dimension is overwhelming to them because they think they're responsible for solving all this. And so my goal is to help them take back their personal power, stand in their truth, create clear boundaries, become grounded, and know how to move that energy through them. I'm not saying don't cut it off. I'm just saying don't get sucked into it. But now that they know how to stand in their truth, right, and take back their personal power, and be strong, now the next step, which is the most difficult, is how do you surrender all that? how do you go inward and on bended knees surrender to source to be guided? So it's like the antithesis. First, we have to get boundaries that are clear and really become clear and almost really, really strong about this is me, this is my incarnation, and you got no right to piggyback into my field, right? Once you've done all that, then to surrender it all and
Right.
give it all away and to be guided is very different.
That's that whole chaos and order thing, right? That Joseph Campbell talked about, where we're in the chaos right now. And in order to get into the order, we have to stay in the chaos and get into the order.
Well,
You
the
can't
irony
really
of
get
Joseph
out of it.
Campbell is, and I love Joseph Campbell, and I've watched all his interviews, is there's no hero's journey.
Right,
We're already there.
right.
We're
There's
already
no,
gods. We're
that's right.
already in, we've already enlightened. We're the only thing separating us and the God that we are with unlimited potential. And
Right.
even to be part of the intergalactic federation is ourselves in our
Right.
beliefs, right?
Right.
Which is what we're talking about.
There
which
is no, there is no master, there is no student, there's only us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the irony is that again, it's that third dimension that we've been addicted to and that we've been enculturated with and inculcated with that separates us from the truth of who we truly are.
So what are some aha moments in your life that made you realize this truth?
I think
Or your
there
biggest
was-
one?
no, well, one of the biggest one I think was in yeah, there was a couple of them, but yeah, they're pretty woo-woo. But I think the biggest one was doing Vipassana meditation in India, right?
Okay.
And I was already doing a breathing exercise that I've been doing literally for 2 or 3 years. So in the Galinka process of breathing, where in Vipassana you follow the breath inside and you use that breath to clear your trauma, and I automatically was using my own breath technique because I was familiar with it. So therefore I had this Kundalini rising and I was literally burning up inside of myself because I was clearing karma and trauma like crazy, but I was on fire, right? And I had a near-death experience, right? Or let me call it a multi-dimensional reality shift. For example, in the other dimension, my wedding ring was broken in half, right? It was severed. And when I came to back to this dimension, there was somebody beside my bed because they were worried about me. Actually, there was a gathering beside my bed. The first thing I said is I'm alive or dead because I couldn't tell, right?
Right.
And I looked at my ring and my ring was severed. So it brings up the question, what is reality? Because that was just as real on the multidimensional level as it was as here. And the physicality occurred on that dimensional reality just like it did here. So all of those realities are valid, right?
Intermingle.
And intermingled. So now I was in trouble because they said I did it all wrong. So, so now everybody's pissed off at me. So I went for a walk and outside I was told, now I don't know if this was the guru of the ashram, but the voice said, see those people that are putting gold leaf on the dome. If you don't do what you're told, you'll be one of those. If you don't do what you're told, you will become violently ill. So ill that your passport will become null and void. Your ticket will be null and void. And still, if you don't behave yourself, you will die and you'll be reincarnated as a Hindu and you'll be a paraplegic and you'll need one person per limb to move your body.
Oh my God.
And I said, F you. Now, don't ask me where this came from,
Right.
but for the first time in my life of reading the Life and Teaching of the Masters of the Far East, and that sense of God, I am a God, right? The only thing in my way is me. I pulled it down. I just went as high as I could, and to Kathumi and Master KH and El Morya, I just pulled it down. I said, okay, do me in now. You do it right now. Either you take me out right now, or you even regress me to rock. Because if you regress me to rock, I will reincarnate right back to this point and stand in front of you again. So either you take me out here right now, or you back off. That was my
Wow.
first
And
aha.
and somehow and somewhere you knew where to get that strength from. And so, or either something took you over or you found you.
Our B found me, yeah. Now, that wasn't the end of it, of course. Then I was in a walk with friends, and then all of a sudden I'm taking a step, and the step goes like this, right? Expands. And now I'm on the ground, and now I'm in another interdimensional shift. I don't know what happened, although they say that a Durga priest threw dirt in my face to ground me. They loaded me on the back of an oxen cart. They hauled me up to the ashram, and now they got me, there, and the guru was there, and he's all pissed off. And he said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, my kundalini, I'm on fire." And he said, "Well, why didn't you come to me?" And I said, "Well, you told me not to bother you unless it was relevant. Me made it clear that you didn't want to really be bothered, so I didn't want to bother you." So now they bring in a doctor who's going to give me a tranquilizer. I said, "Don't give me the. I'm already having to learn how to breathe to manage all this heat. Don't do that." So no, the tranquilizer goes in. So now I have the tranquilizer and the kundalini and the breath to calm all this down. Anyway, the story goes on, but that was part. I mean, it goes on for another.
Well, it's a very amazing story. I mean, I'd love to hear the full of it one day. I mean, the fact is, we all have these stories, every single one of us. And most of us are afraid to tell these stories for the fact that we'll be shunned or it'll be considered woo-woo or, we're crazy or whatever. But the fact is, it's these stories being told that ignites the courage in those watching these stories to tell their story.
Absolutely. That's why I'm an exorcist. Not because I think that, oh, ain't it awful that these entities are, second cousins to the devil incarnate or whatever you want to call them are inhabiting. I mean, when I started doing this, I was into slicing and dicing and chopping and banishing them and sending to the light and being angry and, oh my God, how could you do this to humans? Until I woke up and realized that they're our biggest teacher. But they don't show up in our lives until we're ready to graduate. So it's an honor to have the boogeyman knock at your front door. It means you're ready to graduate. It's how you react to that boogeyman, just like that confrontation in India. Am I prepared to stand in my truth and say, what?
Right.
Hey, stop right here, right? This is my life. Because when you do that, that's the being you want to thank, right?
Right.
That's the being that made you upgrade spiritually.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we all have them because because we're smack dab in the middle of duality, we're going to experience duality on all levels, our physical, our emotional, our mental, our spiritual, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll come in all kinds of forms.
And I think it's sort of like we think, oh, well, we just meditate, and if I just chant Kumbaya, or I do Om Mani Padme Hum, or I do all this, and I become a light being, that's okay. Well, that's okay, but the counterbalance to that is the dark, and the dark gonna show up and bite your butt, right? You can't just deny, the dark night of the soul. You can't deny the shadow part of yourself. It's coming to terms with the balance between the light and the dark, the yin and the yang, or the Tao, all of it, that you're okay with it just the way it is. You're not trying to change the light into the dark or the dark into the light.
Right.
And you have no judgment about one of them. It just is what it is. We live in polarity, right?
Right.
The two will coexist. One cannot exist without the other. So stop trying to war and make one into the other, right?
Right. Right.
And I think that's the trap of the new age is, oh, we have to just become light beings. Don't go into the dark, right?
I absolutely agree with you, because ultimately, when we transcend this reality, there is going to be no other evil or good or any of that. I mean, in the Gnostic gospel says the most good is there is no most good and there is no most bad, right? There is no good and bad. And I don't remember the exact verses, but essentially there's no good and bad.
Well, the whole third dimension cannot exist without polarity. There has to be light and dark. I mean, it's just like a piano. There has to be no sound between the notes, or the notes don't make sense. I mean, the two have to coexist together. I think in
Right.
other dimensional realities, we don't have that polarity in order to create the world that we live in, right? But this world is polarity. That's we're here to deal with polarity. And to deal with polarity is to become the observer of it, right? I don't mean a cold observer that doesn't give a blankety blank. I mean the open heart observer, the compassionate Buddha that understands all the suffering, right, that's going on because we're caught in this drama, but has no need to change it, has compassion for every being, whatever role they're playing, because they're fulfilling their soul or they're dealing with their karma, and everybody's at the place where they need to be, or they would be doing something different.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I guess all through our lives, we're given little signposts that lead us from one step to the other, if only we're willing to look. And it's courses like you teach that allow us to open up to the possibilities of recognizing these signposts and recognizing these inner truths that not most of us don't even know exist. That if we had these teachings and these learnings earlier in our lives, so I would like to say to the youth out there that are listening to this interview that, take advantage of courses like these, like Tyson is giving, because you will have a magical life as a result of it.
Yeah, I really encourage them. I mean, all these years that I spent trying to fit in, and if somebody had come along and said, hey, Tyson, you're not to fit in. That's not what your job is. Hey, by the way, you're just okay where we are. You're a little weird and strange, right? And nobody gets, nobody knows who you are, but that's okay. That's the way it's meant to be. Just stop fussing about this, right? And by the way, come over and play in this playpen with these kids over here. Now, the trouble with all of that is there are people out there doing that. So we have to be also aware that when somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, I understand you're an empath and I know that you're lonely, and how would you like to come and be with another group of empaths? I want you to look inside of your heart. And if it doesn't feel right, your answer is no, because those beings are looking for empaths to put them into governmental programs. And I don't even want to go there and talk about that. So we have to be aware, right? We have to be aware that if you're an empath, most likely, and if you come from an empathic family, you are going to be tracked. And so at some point, you're going to have that meeting, right? And I want you to be really aware that you make a conscious choice. Either it feels right in your heart or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, the answer is no.
Right. Thank you for stating that, because that's a really important, add-in to that statement I just made. It's really important to follow your heart. I mean, I can give an example. I was invited to a congregation, and in that congregation, whatever the channeled being or whatever it was, went around the room and said, you bow down to me, you bow down to me, you bow down to me. And when they came to, and everyone was bowing down, when they came to me, I'm like, no freaking way am I bowing down to you or anyone else. And I left. I ran out that door and I just left because, it's like, no, like, I'm not doing that. And so it's really important to recognize your own sovereignty, your own heart, and your own connection to the Lord, and how that's so precious, more precious than anything else. And never let anyone or anything expect you to be there. I don't know, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think that's really important what you're saying. People say to me all the time, well, how do I know the voices that I'm hearing are angelic or from the higher dimensions?
Right, that's a very good question.
It's really quite simple. If they're threatening you in any way, shape, or form, they are those of bondage. They want to put you in bondage. Those that want to liberate you do it in a loving, compassionate way. That's the best way to tell. And
loving and compassionate can be sternness too.
But it's not the, it's not the hellfire damnation.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it can be stern. But and the guides that I've been worked with, there hasn't been a lot of sternness. Maybe it's just a type of personality that they know the only way I learn is a
Right.
tough way, by
Right.
bumping into the solid brick wall over and over and over until I get the message.
Yes, we're all different and different things. And a very good friend of mine who's no longer with us told me, like, he said that, sometimes I have to get angry to get the message across, but and then when it does, you're like glow. And so I guess we're all built differently, and we all have different life experiences that require us to be taught differently. But that still doesn't change the fact that it's going to be lovingly and compassionately.
Absolutely. I want to go back, if I can, to that point
Absolutely.
that you were asking me about, well, the third dimension and the fifth dimension and all about that. We are in the midst of having our second gathering of the eagles. And you would say, well, what's the gathering of the eagles? Well, it comes from the late 60s, early 70s. There's a book that was written by Menno Pauls, and it was published as a PDF and circulated. Well, in those days, it was a Gestetner or whatever. And it was really talking about the fact that he was sent all over the world through guidance. And like he'd had no money to get from A to B, but it would just materialize. And he'd go to Germany, had no idea why he went to Germany, but he was told he needed to meet to so and such and such. And he calls those the eagles. And the eagles are those that know that we're in the midst of this major planetary and personal shift in consciousness that's underway. And the way he describes it is there's certain pockets on the planet that are high energy places where this transformation will occur quicker than elsewhere. And fortunately, I happen to live in one of them, in the Shuswap, right? And so that's where some of the gathering of the eagles has occurred. But they're all over the world. So part of the Earth Wisdom geomancy is, how do you know whether you're in a pocket or a sacred place? Or even better, how can we take where I live and make it into a sacred pocket and a sanctum, it's a place like that. And so the way he describes it is that with this huge shift, anything that was man-made will disintegrate as we make this shift, and that we will wake up. He describes it like in a valley, right? And that some people will have,
is that kind of like the rapture, or
exactly like or Shangri-La or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and that people will be shaking their heads saying what happened, but the eagles will know because they've been forewarned, right?
Right.
And part of it is sort of interesting, like Sodom and Gomorrah from the Bible. The message is don't look back, which even now is difficult, for those that are in this process, we're in this bifurcation that's happening with humanity, is that you can't communicate with those that don't agree with you. They don't hear you. So we're getting to the point where there's sort of like, we're going like this, right?
Yeah.
And the further we get like that, because our DNA is literally being altered, coming back and joining that together is becoming more and more difficult. So the point of not looking back is they're on their own course. Nobody gets lost in this process. Nobody's good and nobody's bad. It's just that some people are ready to go to the next level and some aren't. But ultimately, we all get there.
Right.
That's the important point. So the gathering of the eagles is, well, then how do we prepare for this? And how do we identify these zones? And how do we facilitate groups of 12 around one so that we can get this information out, so we can encourage people that in the midst of this chaos, we are witnessing the death of a culture. We're witnessing the death of a world order, which is in the midst of doing everything they can to put this into place, but they're not going to make it. So how do we get people distracted from that shift out there, all this stuff, the war and all this drama and everything, and get them focused on what it is that this shift event, fifth dimensional shift, is all about, and how can we prepare for it? Like how do we deal with food security? How do we grow our own gardens? How do we become close to nature? How do we find like-minded people? How do we make our own bread or grain or whatever? How do we become It's like we're almost living the late 60s, early 70s all over again, but on a different spiral and at the global level. So that's the gathering of the eagles. And the second one we're going to do at a place called the center of the earth, which has been defined by the Tibetans. I'm not sure if it's Tibetan, but by Buddhists and First Nations as a sacred place, right?
Okay. And where is that place?
That's somewhere, I think, about a half an hour or so out of Kamloops.
Wow, really? That close?
That close, yeah. So we're gonna have our second one. The first one was at Gaia Monday, which was up on the bench, not too far out of Salmon Arm. And so we'll do the second one. So we're bringing together people and helping them understand all this, but also read the book in the background, learn the facilitation skills to take back to their own group or to create their own group of 12 around one.
It seems like BC and even Canada, for that matter, seems to be very instrumental in the shift from 3D to 5D.
Yeah, it's interesting because the screws are being tightened down by the global world agenda, or
Yeah.
World Economic Forum are being screwed down tighter in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or anywhere else, right? Because of being part of the empire, maybe England as well. So it's sort of interesting, it's sort of like the death struggle, right? Of trying to get this done,
Or
as quickly as possible, right?
right, like a tug of war, and hopefully someone or no one, we're all going to just fall down rather than somebody pulling one on the other side or whatever.
Yeah, I just want to assure people that are listening to this is that in my world, it may not be in your world, but in my world, and I encourage you to join my world, not because it's we've already won.
Absolutely.
Not that winning is the name of the game, but I do see the future that there will be global peace, and I do see that we'll be part of the intergalactic federation of civilizations. We're destined to do that. We are actually gods in potential when we realize that, take back our power. The goal of this, the truth of this is that they only have control on the third dimension, which is in the polarity of this and that, or war and fear and doubt and shame and guilt. But the portal into the fifth dimension is in the center of our heart. Okay? Right. That's the gateway from the third to the fifth. They can't enter it because they have to go into their heart. And they're all psychopaths. And a psychopath has no connection to their heart or to their emotions. So once we make that shift, that gateway shuts and there's no way they can follow. And it's a choice each individual makes. Absolutely.
And I honestly don't even know if it's a choice. It's like already written. It's like the individual has already decided this at some level, and they're going to follow through with it.
Yeah, that's true. And the thing is, we have to stay out of judgment, because at the soul level, I don't know about you, but at the soul level, if they said to me, hey, Tyson, you got a choice. Do you want to play on the white square or the black square? I would know that if I was going to be on the black square, right, that it would be the much more difficult incarnation, because not only would I have to pay the demon or the antichrist or whatever, I'd have to remember that I'm still a soul and a spirit and a spark. Otherwise, I couldn't find my way home. I'd be lost incarnation after incarnation after incarnation. So playing the role of the dark to me is much more difficult than playing the role of the light.
Absolutely. I agree with you, because first of all, you're choosing to do it. And second of all, you're the harbinger, I guess, in a sense, right? You're the one bringing in the light. You're the one brightening the light, or showing everyone that the light's brighter. I don't really know what words to use to say
well,
it.
They say that, that Lucifer is the light bearer, right?
Right.
He's looking to bring the light to humanity.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, it's really, really,
it's really hard to wrap around your head, and it's really
exactly. We want it to be really crystal clear. Bad guys and good guys, cowboys with the white hats and black hats, and the good guys always win in the end.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. There's no story in the world about good and evil where the good doesn't win, right?
Right.
So,
well, the thing that it's so interesting about this is that even, like you may have had the most horrific childhood in your life, you chose your parents. And so clearing toxic emotion sessions, I take people in this, coming to terms with the fact that what happened in your life is you chose that at the soul level. So your choice is, how do you want to react to it? how can I
Right.
help you move through the trauma? I'm not saying the trauma wasn't horrific. I'm not saying that it doesn't need to be dealt with. I'm just saying, let's deal with it. Let's move through it so it doesn't keep reoccurring in your life, so you can let go of it and learn the lesson, and it's done. And you can let everybody else off the hook. Thank you for showing up, mom, and being the worst, whatever. You get the Academy Award for being the worst mother on the planet, and I truly love you, and now I let you go, or whatever, right?
Right. And we all have to do that. I mean, and in due course, I guess we realize that they're all players that are there to play a role to help us rise.
Exactly.
That's the bottom
Shakespeare
line.
says that all, and it's all a stage, and we choose, the players on the stage, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Absolutely.
this is really pretty easy to say at this point, but and in a day to day, we all get lost, right? We all
Yeah.
get sucked into the vortex of everything that's happening around us, or we get really pissed off because our computer doesn't work, or we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or we stub our toe, or the cat kicks all over the floor, or whatever, right? And then we go down to a tailspin. So it's something that we're continually working on. It's not as though we just arrive at being enlightened and stay there. I mean, it would be nice, but
It'd be nice.
it hasn't happened in my life yet.
No, and I think that oscillating back and forth, there's something to that too, because you get really excited when light appears. Then otherwise, if light's there all the time, there's no excitement either, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah, but I don't want to get addicted on the roller coaster either, right?
No, no, that's not what I'm saying. Definitely not.
And I don't want to camp out in the dark night of the soul either, right?
No, no. No, because once you actually figure it out, there's so many gems there, and there's
Yeah.
so many different things you can explore and learn and grow, even in a new reality. It's absolutely a new reality then.
Yeah, it is. And we're talking about, that whole thing about synchronicity. You didn't use the word synchronicity, but being in the right place at the right time, and things like just appear out of nowhere. And like you said, we all have that ability for this to happen. It's just that we don't notice them because we're all busy, caught in the matrix of trying to figure things out, or we're in our brain, that we miss the clues of the magic of the world that's there for us. Once we calm down, we can see it and feel it. And it's just like stepping stones or guideposts that take us, and life becomes more full of ease and grace, right? Who doesn't?
And the one thing that everyone always talks about, the 1111s and all these different things that people experience, never anyone talks about the feeling associated with it. When you experience these things, there's another feeling that goes with it, that it's unique to all your other feelings. So you can distinguish what you're experiencing is something outside of what your norm is.
Yeah, the beauty of the mind is that I make no distinction between reality and what you feel. So if you feel something like you are running, and you feel what it is to have that high from running, and you imagine yourself running, you'll have the same high, and the body will experience. That's why runners do this running, in their mind.
Yeah.
So the beauty of this is the more we focus on emotionally, like you said, and feel what it is to be one with all that is, the more we can feel that aha, or that bliss, or that agape of being our whole heart open to everything, right? Then the more it materializes into the physical plane, into the world that we live in our reality.
Absolutely.
We manifest the world we created, we live in.
We do, and we continue to. And our words are so powerful, whether we're saying it to each other, or whether we're saying them to ourselves. And it's super important to recognize that power of our own language.
Yeah, they don't call it spelling for nothing, right?
Too funny.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's all in our words, if we understand our words, right? So we're on an interesting journey. We chose to incarnate at this time. And if you're kicking yourself and saying, hey, I just wish just take a breath, realize that, hey, you have the front row seat, and you get to experience this. And, there's many, many, many beings who would love to be incarnated in a body at this time. And guess what? You did the work in past lives to be here and have a front row seat. So stop moaning and groaning and enjoy the ride. Do the best you
and
can.
wouldn't you rather not have messages of political things going on in your life and instead have magic and mystery and excitement in your life, right?
And fellowship. Don't forget fellowship.
Fellowship, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's what I want to help bring to the world. And of course, the ultimate goal is I want to live in a more humane planet, right?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned something, and not to open Pandora's box again, but you mentioned that, if you're an empath, then you're going to be hit with that side that is looking for more empaths as well. Well, you also mentioned how you recognize when that comes at you. But my question is, how does the other side pick out who these empaths are?
That they actually, every human being has a signature, a biological signature that they can actually take from your DNA. That's why they do blood tests. And we're at the stage now that once you have your signature from your blood, they can broadcast anything to your DNA at the same frequency, and you will think that that's a thought in your own head. It is very difficult to distinguish. And again, it's the same thing. You say, is that my thought or is that not my thought? You need to make that judgment call. So it's the same thing. They can track you, and they do track you. So, if this is the baseline of humanity, right, the collective consciousness, they have the frequency identifier to see anything that rises above that. So that's why I call myself a stealth warrior. I don't go over the horizon, right? All of mine is done, by doing the Court of Atonement and sending love and all the rest of it. I'm not out there with a picket. I'm not out there on the street. I'm not trackable, right? I don't want to come over the horizon. That vibrational frequency can be tracked by my emotions being up or down over that horizon, right?
Right. So keeping your emotions neutral is a way to manage that.
Not being caught up in anger and resentment and the negative emotions, like, things like that's the only way you can be possessed, is doubt, shame, guilt, fear, all the lower emotions, right? That's the way, that's the energy vibrational that they literally feed on, like they're like bloodsuckers, right? That's the only way they have any existence on this planet is by consuming that energy. When you deny them that energy by raising your frequency, they're down here, they no longer have access to you, right? So it's the same thing. They have this horizon that they track. You're above this, they will then identify you. The thing is, once you've done that, what I described of pulling down your personal power and standing in your truth and say, okay, whatever words you have to use, like, don't, take me out now, then you become uneffable. Let's put it that way.
Right.
They leave you alone.
Right.
Because they know that you know the game, right? And there is no defense against love. That's just an important thing too. And I love to send love bombs or bombs, BALM or BOMB, take your choice. You just take whatever the negativity that's projected at you, you multiply it by 10,000 and you send it back with divine love.
Right.
And that's explained in the masters and teachings of the Far East. So if the masters can do it, I'm allowed to do it too. Right.
Absolutely. The gift is for all of us, because we're all one, right? We're all connected. We're all individuals. Even when one speaks, it's speaking to itself. So, you're sharing this with this audience is really sharing it with yourself. And the sooner you recognize that, or we recognize that, the sooner we'll learn from each other rather than destroy each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to thank all of my clients for allowing me to speak my voice so I can hear my voice, so I can teach myself through guidance that I'm receiving.
Can you share with us, you mentioned your clients, so can you share with us one client that stands out that you had a breakthrough with, or had a breakthrough with you, that, the people listening to this would say, wow.
Well, I think, I don't know if it's a breakthrough, but for all of you that are empaths and your energy healers and your coaches, and you work in that sector, and your business is really, I just did a posting on my homepage about it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault that you've gone to all the gurus and you paid all this money and none of this stuff works, because you come from a different vibrational frequency. And if it doesn't match your frequency, then your tribe or those you're working with won't feel the resonant frequency from you. They'll feel that it's off. So it's important that that you don't blame yourself, right? Because when you do stand in your truth and you're okay with that and you feel good about yourself, your resonant frequency will attract the ideal client. So I got a phone call from a lady in she's Yugoslavian, and she is a Jew, and she was phoning from Israel. And I said, well, how did you find me? And she said, oh, my aunt on the other side said I need to work with you.
Wow.
Now, I don't know about you, but I've never seen any marketing course from any guru that says anything about that, right?
Right, of course, because there isn't anything out there like that. But yeah.
So that's what I want to say. When you understand what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
And you make that alignment with your soul and why you incarnated. So one of the things is, the empath success formula is, what are my divine gifts? What is this incarnation all about? What are my superpowers, and how do I deliver my superpowers and make my livelihood from it? That's what I love to teach, right? That.
So powerful, so powerful. I can't wait for people who watch this to actually engage with you and work with you and share with me afterwards the magic that they experience with you, because that's what I'd like to do. Anyone who actually takes a course with Tyson, I'd love to then interview you after the fact to be able to tell your story of your successes with working with Tyson.
Well, we now have an affiliate link, so you'll be an affiliate, and I'll make the link all up for you. I just need to know a few things that I'll send in the email, so you can go out there and encourage your tribe to do this, and you will benefit from that. And you can ask for feedback from them as well, right?
Absolutely.
And on all of my courses online, which is www.thewellnessacademy.ca, there's all testimonials. So take a look at the testimonials and see how people responded to what it is that I was teaching.
We'll share some of those testimonials in this interview, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've exhausted my questions for you, Tyson. Is there anything you want to share that maybe I wouldn't even know how to ask you, or any insight you want to share with anyone listening to this video?
Well, it's really quite simple. I said in the beginning, and it's really important, that if you're an empath, a highly sensitive person, which is, by the way, 25% of the population, and like you said, a lot of people don't know, but if you have a sense of things before they happen, you're an empath, right? And I have worked with many business people say, oh, I'm not empathic. And then I teach them what it is, and they go, oh my goodness, right? They are empathic. So even if you don't think you are, and you're in a business and you feel stuck, why not learn how to get good, clear guidance, right? Why not come from your heart rather than your head? It's going to save you so much time. And remember, if you are an empath or a highly sensitive person, you're not here to fit in. You are here to change the world.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. Thank you, Tyson. I really appreciate you. Yes, absolutely. And I really enjoyed having this discourse with you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for inviting me. Much appreciated.
It was my pleasure.
Bye for now.